There it is. Welcome everybody to the Tea with Ms McGill Show, fueled by Blue Line Brews with our K-Cups. Of course, have come in. Check them out right here. Yep, check out the logo there with Reed. Big question is, have you given Blue Line Brews a try it? Of course, they've been with us all season long. BlueLineBrews.com. SAVE15 is the promo code. You can also look for it in stores, Bemidji area, all across the Iron Range, Twin Ports, Northern Wisconsin. Check out their social media pages. They're always doing stuff, because doing stuff means they're always posting stuff along the lines of 10% of their profits go back to fallen officers or injured officers in the line of duty. So it's a mission-based coffee. It's great coffee. It's, great cause, obviously. So BlueLineBrews.com. Check them out. This is Puka. That is Reed Larson, star of the show. And Reed, welcome to episode 38.
Episode 38, and unfortunately, the final of the hockey season before we get into a different format, which we'll touch base on here as we move on. But the final one, wrapping up the high school hockey season, and then we'll talk about the state tournament. We'll talk about a couple of awards that are given out and give our little summaries of how we thought the season wrapped up this year. So we're wrapping up the hockey season. It is 54 degrees in Grand Rapids at the moment outside, and it's looking a little bit like spring. So as sad as we may be that the hockey season has come to an end, spring is right around the corner.
Oh, yeah, spring days. Of course, daylight savings time over the weekend, like I said, 50-some degrees, St. Patrick's Day. But tomorrow, so St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. So get out there and get your Shamrock Shake. Nothing says St. Patty's Day like a Shamrock Shake from McDonald's. I had one this weekend. Absolutely fabulous.
And then just got a free ad, by the way. You just got
they did just get a free ad. And by the way, because it's such a good cause, I think it's today and tomorrow. If you buy a Shamrock Shake, 25 cents to the Ronald McDonald House or Ronald McDonald Foundation, whichever it is. So there it is on McDonald's to get to one. But yes, so spring is here.
You mentioned daylight savings time, Puka. Did you know that daylight savings time just went in a vote in the House and the Senate, and they're voting to get away and get rid of daylight savings probably after next year?
Really? See, when we were kids, remember daylight savings was April to October. And then I know it was I can't remember which term during the Bush administration, they were looking at energy policy. So the way they were going to solve it was because remember, daylight savings always used to be right before Halloween, because I thought that was ironic, right? Right before Halloween, when all these kids would be running around, let's change it so it's darker at night. So then they pushed it till right around that time. And then, like I said, we start in March now. It used to be, I think it was like October 15th and April 15th. It used to be just kind of that thing. But I know, is it Arizona and Indiana are two states that don't participate. But I did not know that there was something going on.
I heard this from my very intelligent and wonderfully beautiful wife. Told me that the other day. And when she says something, I don't lie. I don't argue. She'll probably
great advice.
I get that out there. So anyway, daylight savings. So let's dig into a little bit of hockey here, Puka. What do you got?
Yeah, well, let's start with the single A tournament. Section 7 conquers. Not much of a surprise, and I think we got the showdown that we were looking for in the championship game, 1-2, Hermantown Warroad.
There was no question in my mind that it was going to end up with those two teams in the finals, and the team that won the state championship is no surprise to anybody that is on planet Earth right now. I don't think anybody had any other thoughts in their mind, and if they did, they don't know hockey, because those that understood Hermantown and their schedule and how they play and their program, Hermantown has dominated their way through single A this year and found their way into a state championship that, to be quite honest with you, had COVID not happened last year and the problems with their team getting quarantined, they would have won back-to-back state championships, because their team last year was better than their team this year, and this team dominated. So but we were in for a very fun state championship game. I enjoyed watching the state finals between Warroad and Hermantown. The irony here, for those that wonder, and what's the formula for a single A team, turning into a dynasty like Hermantown or some of these other teams too. And everybody likes to pick on Hermantown, but Hermantown is actually, at the high school level, their numbers as enrollment actually are the size of a single A school. You know, they've got, you know, 700 to 900 kids that go through that school, and that their enrollment is the size of a single A school. So people can sit and blame all they want and why don't they go double A? Well, they actually are the size of a single A school. But there were other teams that are consistently making it to the single A state tournament that their numbers are higher. Matamidi was in the state semifinals and got beat in the state semifinals by Warroad. Warroad moved on to the state championship game, but Matamidi has been 2020 was the state champs. They've been in that state championship game before in the semi. I mean, they've been state tournament how many years in a row? And they run a double A youth hockey program. Their numbers are such that within the next rotation, they're probably going to go double A. Matamiti's numbers are high. So that's one. So 2 of the 4 teams that made it to the state semifinals for single A, I should say 3 of the 4 teams out of the 4 teams that were in the final 4 for single A, all have double A youth hockey teams that they play. Matamidi has a double A Bantam team. Hermantown has a double A Bantam team. Warroad is the only team that does not play double A at the youth hockey level. They play single A. That was maybe a little different situation this year, but now new to likely in the next couple of years moving up to double A is Alexandria. Alexandria plays a double A youth hockey program right now with their Bantams. Their Bantams are in the double A state tournament right now. So they're in the A state tournament. So those teams, you want to know how to do it. Get the numbers up in your youth association, continue to stay at the single A level at high school, but run a double A program and play a double A schedule through Pee Wee A's and Bantam A's. Play Pee Wee double A's and Bantam double A's if you've got the right kids in the right program, and look what it breeds. It breeds success. So there's absolutely no surprises when it came to, and it was interesting because I got to hear a lot of people complain about it over the weekend, and Hermantown. Well, what about some of these other teams that are in the state tournament every year, like Matamidi? You know,
Right.
they're a double A youth hockey association. Their numbers, they've got more numbers than Hermantown does in their school and their program. They could very well be going double A, be forced to be going double A. So a lot of that going on. And I go back and forth in my mind as well. Would you want to go double A if you keep winning or keep dominating? I would want to, but maybe that organization doesn't want to, and it's their choice if they don't want to. And guess what? If you don't like it that Hermantown wins every year, then maybe your program should get better.
Yeah. Well, a couple things on that is Hermantown. I mean, this is their 4th title, so it's not like, I mean, they've dominated Section 7 definitely, but you know, they've have 2 titles. What's the last title? 17 and then 07, and they must have had one
15.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess stacked up a little bit here in the teens and then now into the 20s. But before that, St. Thomas, pumped them a few times there on the numbers. It reminded me of a comment I got. Yeah, it would have been Wednesday last week. Minneapolis down to 1 team, but the Minneapolis school district's massive. In a text group that I had, somebody said that has something to do with free and reduced lunches and the numbers on the program. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, there's a formula. So you take your enrollment of your school from 9 through 12, and whatever that enrollment is. Typically, if you're just looking at enrollment numbers, if your enrollment is over, I think 1,200 students, 9 through 12, that bumps you into double A. But if you have a certain percentage of your student body, and I think it's somewhere above 50 something percent, if a certain number of your student body registers as free and reduced lunch, then they subtract, plug it into a formula and subtracts a certain number from that enrollment with the state high school league, which can allow you to play single A.
Okay. So there it is. There's the explanation. All right, let's get turned to this Hermantown Warroad game just a little bit. Now, remember, everyone, if you didn't hear last week and didn't remember, of course, last year, COVID was, the news on everything affected everything in life, right? So not only was the state tournament held in April, and I believe it was Easter weekend, but Hermantown JV or a varsity player contracted. So basically their JV played against, was it Dodge County and Brody Lamb? And that's where, basically that game put Zamplant on the map. But yeah, so Hermantown Warroad in the finals. To me, little disappointed. in the big guns for Warroad. Shogby tried that wraparound early. By the way, I found out, and you probably already knew this, but UMD commit Jason Shogby from Warroad and Gardner. The two big guys didn't really step up, in my opinion. However, they did have the overtime game the day before against Matamidi.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on guys to be able to perform in a situation like that. And there's a lot to be said about a program. And I'm not saying that Warroad hasn't been in the state tournament. They were in the state tournament just a few years ago when Shogby was a freshman. So I'm not saying that they don't have experience, but there's a lot to be said about a team like Hermantown, who is continually in the state tournament every single year. It's the confidence of the program. It's the confidence of the coaching staff. Even though those kids, for the most part, it's the first time that most of those kids have been in the state tournament. The program has been in the state tournament, and it's not news to people in that community. It's expected, and there's a lot to be said about communities that continually go to the state tournament. It's almost like you're expected to go there. It's just like another weekend of playing hockey for some of them. And, if you don't go as often as other teams, then maybe you get a little nervous when you make it to that big game. So, and there's a lot to be said about when we get to the AA tournament too, and we'll start talking about Andover and what their experience got them to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to think now. Hermantown, what was that final then? Because it was
3-2.
Close, 3-2. Yeah, yeah. There you go. 3-2. Close going into third, and Warroad just kind of started shooting from everywhere. In that third, which I guess what you got to do. They're going to put them. They're putting them from the outside and stuff, but you never knew you were going to get a bounce.
Yeah, no, I think that it was well played defensively by Hermantown. Hermantown kept their foot on the gas. They continued to take chances. They played the game the right way and kept those players that you talked about with Damon Gardner and Jason Shogby kept on the perimeter. It's tough to get goals to the net. And to be quite honest with you, Dan Calloway played really good. Goaltender for Hermantown. And that's one thing over the course of the last decade that Hermantown has struggled with is real consistent throughout the year goaltender. And this year, with the transfer of Dan Calloway from Duluth East to Hermantown, he was their number one. Garen Upsall was their number two, and there's you're not shaking a stick at anybody that's horrible there either. Garen Upsall as a backup was really good this year, so they had a good goaltending tandem that they could lean on all year long, and that makes a huge difference for them. They're real confident, can take chances.
All right. Anything else on single A?
No, I think the single A was a really nice tournament to watch. Obviously, the best player in the entire tournament was Zamplant for single A. It was fun to watch some of the other players, fun to watch Damon Gardner. It was fun to watch some of the other goaltenders and Ben Dardis, who we'll talk about here a little bit later. Couple of nice players throughout that single A tournament, but there's absolutely no question in my mind that Zamplant was the best player it might have been the best player in the entire tournament, but for sure in the AA tournament. And I got a chance to watch him last night in the All-Star game, which we'll talk about. He's just phenomenal. His abilities are through the roof.
Absolutely. Well, congrats to Pat Andrews. Congrats to the Hermantown Hawks on your title. And now a word from our friends over at the Rink Sports Bar and Grill in Eveleth, just on for the Hockey Hall of Fame. I actually was playing up in Hoyt Lakes this week in the 51st annual Hoyt Lakes Cup. By the way, thanks, Wade. Thanks, Foz. Thanks, Marty, everyone who helped put that on. Like I said, 51st annual has been around a long time and a lot of fun, but stopped at the rink after the games on Sunday. Found out there's an afternoon happy hour. Don't quote me, like 11:02 or something like that on Sundays. But, full breakfast every day, full menu, fish fry on Fridays. We talked a little bit about Lent and all the fish fry stuff. So that's available to you on Fridays. Daily specials, real hockey themed place, really cool. 248-8582 if you want to call them, put in a pre-order, or you can go to their website, the Ring Sports Bar and Grill.com. Put your order in and you can go for pickup there. So thank you to the Ring Sports Bar and Grill. AA, let's move on there. Thoughts? Alex Bump was kind of the big news the first day.
Well, that was the tournament. We had a bracket going in school with a group of buddies at the high school here, and you put in your votes and who's going to win what, and tiebreakers were how many goals will your championship team score throughout the entire tournament. So I'll be honest with you, the bracket I put together was completely gone after day one because I had Cretin-Derham Hall winning the whole thing. And of course, we sat there, watched on Thursday, and Alex Bump completely took over that game, scored 5 goals, had 6 points, and he had the performance of the decade, at least for one game. He had a pretty decent pretty decent second game, and I apparently played well in the third place game, but Maple Grove kind of took care of him in that second game where he wasn't as effective. But I'll tell you what, the performance I saw to Alex Bump was unbelievable. He was phenomenal. Some of the moves that he put on, he's at another level, to be honest with you, than a lot of the players that played in that tournament. He was fun to watch. Prior Lake was kind of, to me, the AA tournament was the Cinderella story, kind of like Minneapolis would have been. And the single A, although Minneapolis just couldn't get through Alexandria, but it was fun to watch Prior Lake and fun to see Prior Lake. They had never been to the tournament before. They ended up winning their first game and their first tournament appearance in school history. Get themselves to that semifinal game, and of course, then you're running with the big boys and some pretty high-end talent in Maple Grove. But Alex Bump was phenomenal in that tournament. It was fun to see. Some of the other games that were interesting to watch. We watched a really good 4 or 5 seed game in Andover and Moorhead. I never in a million years guessed this. Obviously, it's a part of Grand Rapids, and losing to Andover in the section finals, it was. We kind of thought, well, I don't know how far Andover is going to go. They barely got through us in the section finals. They beat us in a 3-1 game. And then we watched them play against some of these other teams, and they took over in certain aspects of the game. It was a tight game, went into overtime, double overtime with Moorhead, and they ended up chipping Moorhead off, who during the season, Grand Rapids, we ended up losing to them in overtime as well. So tight games with Moorhead, but it was fun to watch Andover. And of course, as salty as we were, at points in it, we're kind of thinking, is Andover going to get beat? Is Andover going to get beat? Maybe we want to cheer for the outstate Moorhead. As the tournament went on, I found myself growing towards Andover and wanting to win, just because of what I watched and witnessed. And it was funny because after the state tournament was over, I sent a text message to Mark Manning, the head coach at Andover, and just congratulated him and said it's well deserved. And he texted me back and he said, Coach, just so you know, we had to win 4 games in a row and beat 4 teams that I think were better than us. And that's what he said. And it was pretty awesome for him to say that, because he's given respect to the teams they had to beat, but he's also giving a lot of kudos to the way his kids battled. So I found myself cheering for Andover by the time we got into that championship game, thinking this is pretty awesome. Going through some of this. Some other highlights of it, of course, we look at Maple Grove and how they took down Prior Lake. They completely dominated them physically in Prior Lake. They just completely dominated them. It was what you saw from Maple Grove was strength, pace, speed, and Prior Lake just could not do that with the 2 lines that they were playing. Alex Bump was on the ice every other shift. He was completely nullified on every offensive opportunity. I think he got 1 goal, but he was just taken care of. And Maple Grove had a really good plan. They play a run and gun style of hockey, and they just wore down Prior Lake and brought themselves to the finals. And that brings us to, not that the other games weren't important, but they're, to me, kind of, I guess, forgettable when it comes down to what the championship game brought. Championship game brought Andover into, again, a game that Mark Manny was really surprised to see his team in, but knew that he had earned it, and they had earned it. And against Maple Grove, well, going into that game, I thought Maple Grove was going to walk away with it because of their strength and their power and their run and gun. I know, and most people know, that when you play against Maple Grove, if you hit them, if you're physical, they're going to back off. Well, they came at them hard in that game, but their game, they didn't adjust their game. They came hard. They played run and gun at Andover. They pinched their defensemen. Their third forward high was not high enough. They gave up too many odd man rushes against Gavin Thorson and Caden Casey. And you don't give odd man rushes to Gavin Thorson and Caden Casey. The game was over as soon as they started giving up too many chances offensively. And I remember talking to our head coach, Wade, thinking, Wade, we played Andover twice this year, and I don't think we gave up a single odd man rush against Andover. But Maple Grove gave up a dozen of them in that game, and there's a reason why Andover ended up on top. They had a better game plan. They managed the game better, although Coach Todd Berglund does a really nice job with his team. I think Mark Manny had his team really, really well prepared and ready to win a state championship. And that's what they did. They were phenomenal. Gavin Thorson was, to me, probably the top player in the tournament after watching Alex Bump kind of fizzle off in the second round. Gavin Thorson was probably the best player in the AA tournament. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, but he's not a name that, I mean, I remember hearing his name both times they played Rapids, but he brought it to another level, in my opinion, especially in that championship game. That was very impressive. And the other thing that's impressive about the win by Andover is they played the double OT Thursday night, then they go double OT Saturday night. And remember, Maple Grove scored, what, 8 seconds in to that game, that championship?
They were up to nothing.
Yeah. And right off that opening faceoff, because I think they said they went back and looked the fastest goal ever. And it wasn't that long ago, but
it was 10 seconds, I think, into the game, or 7 seconds, something like that. But it wasn't the fastest, but it was close. Right. But it was fun to see some other players in that tournament play good. The Nelson kid back on the point for Maple Grove was really good. The Gunderson kid up front,
who's the Italian, Girardi?
Something like that. I think it was Giuliani.
There you go.
There's a couple of guys on that squad Brink. Brink was good too. Those guys were fun to watch, but it was. Can I make a comment about the celebrations?
Ooh,
do they bother anybody else? To me, the tournament tends to think that when you go to the state tournament that you have to have the best celly after you score. And I guess, in my opinion, I know it's a state tournament and you're on the biggest stage for high school sports and you want to make your face show up on the Jumbotron doing something awesome after you score. But you've taken it to another level when you completely push all your teammates away and you don't celebrate with your teammates and you go down the ice and you do the gritty like Justin Jefferson from the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, to me, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I know who we're talking about that scored for Maple Grove. He's not the only one. The Sellies have gotten out of control. To me, it's not hockey anymore. Now it's about the TV and it's about look at me. And I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah. Well, Bump, I think, was doing the same thing, right? Taking his glove off, and I think Giuliani did it or something like that. They're
showing fingers, and okay, that's fine. You want to score, you want to drag your glove on the ice, you want to shoot the bow and arrow, whatever. But now, why brush away 4 other guys that are coming to celebrate with you so that you can skate 200 feet to the other end of the ice doing the gritty?
Yeah. No, I agree.
It drives me crazy.
That was, that turns me off. And I know in conversations with people our age, we'll context this, but not very impressed.
Nope, I'm not a fan of that. But anyway, state championship overtime goes to the Andover Huskies, and I couldn't be more humbled as to us, I think, giving Andover a really good game in the section finals. Obviously, we didn't play real good first half of the game, but came back to life the second half. But the team that comes out of Section 7, both A and AA, come home again with the state championship, and it says a lot about our area teams and what we have to do to get to the state tournament, get to the Xcel Energy Center, and they come in and win. And again, going back to what I said about Hermantown, that was that 3rd or the 4th year in a row that Andover had been to the state tournament back to back.
I think they said 3rd. Yeah.
Okay. It says a lot, even though not all of those kids were on the team last year. Most of them were. Not many of them, if any, were on the team the year before, except for maybe Weston Knox and Law. Those guys may have been on it 2 years ago as well, too, as sophomores. But it says a lot about a program when you've been there. The pressure's not there on you. They're playing against other teams that maybe hadn't been there in a little while. And hey, it means a lot when you've got experience going into the tournament. And as a coach, it does too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. These are young athletes and all that stuff matters. All right. So that's a wrap on the AA state. A word for Minnesota hockey camps.
Minnesota hockey camps, Breezy Point, Minnesota. You can see the outfit there that our good buddy Puka's wearing on the other half of the screen. He's got his Minnesota hockey camps t-shirt and hat on today, sporting it. Signups are now open online. MinnesotaHockeyCamps.com. If you're looking for a great summer skills hockey camp. You're a hockey player that's saying, you know what, I've done a lot of AAA in the summer times. I've played a lot of games. I now want to make my game go to the next level. I want to mature my game and get serious about what I'm doing in the summertime. It's not just recreation. I want to play games all summer long. I want to develop skills so that I can make it to the next level. Then sign up for a camp where the pros go. 2 times on ice, skill development, dryland training, classroom to try and boost that hockey IQ. Get signed up. Minnesota hockey camps.
Yeah, and if you've been around hockey, I mean, you recognize this logo. Minnesota Hockey Camp's been around a long time, and that logo is synonymous with hockey and really summer hockey. I've known what this logo is since 1990. So yes, go down in our show notes. We'll have a link over to the website for Minnesota Hockey Camps.
It's been there since way before 1990. It started right after the 80 Olympics. Herb Brooks and Chuck Grillo started it way back when. And every time I see that logo that you're wearing right now, there's certain names that come to mind. TJ Oshie, Scott Hartnell, Chris Stewart, one of the current co-owners of it. These are guys that went to this hockey camp, and look at where some of these guys ended up. Pretty awesome.
Well, I was wearing my hat watching the single A championship game at the VFW in White Lakes, and a guy come up and says, "Hey, I like your hat, Chuck Grillo, Minnesota Hockey Camps. I'm from Delano." He said he lives in Colorado now. Was home playing with some of his buddies from the cities, but said he spent many a summer and great times at Minnesota Hockey Camp. So there's a testimonial for all of you young people. Get signed up today. Summer's coming. Like I said, spring is here. St. Patty's tomorrow. All right, so some awards were given out Sunday after the state tournament, and I guess a bit of a surprise to me. Congrats to Max Strand, Roseau Ram, coming home with Mr. Hockey this year. We previewed him a little bit last week. Senior forward, 36 goals, 78 points in just 27 games. That is impressive.
Well, hey, this is what we've said, and this is what's kind of cool. Maybe I'm a little surprised too. There's some pretty good names on that list of guys that were very well deserving of Mr. Hockey, but a huge congratulations to Max Strand from Roseau and the Roseau community. And what was really cool is the person that presented the award at the Mr. Hockey banquet to Mr. Hockey was Paul Broughton from Roseau. It's kind of cool. He was the one who got to present it. So Roseau boy to a Roseau boy. But the other cool statistic is the last 3 Mr. Hockeys in a row have gone to an outstate player. 2 years ago, Blake Biondi. Last year, Jack Peart. This year, Max Strand. And the big question mark is, will next year go to Zam Plant? I guess we'll have to see. You never know. Will Zam Plant end up coming back after winning a state championship and doing everything he can at the high school level, or will he forego his senior year and end up going to Chicago Steel and playing the entire season there? So that's the biggest question. But huge congratulations to Max Strand. The other piece that people think about is what people don't know when they're watching the state tournament is before the state tournament, those awards are voted on before the tournament starts. So somebody might say, "Whoa, I don't know how Alex Bump didn't get it. He scored 5 goals in the first game and got one in the second game. He had 6, 7, 8 points in the weekend, and he should have been Mr. Hockey." Well, that's because it was voted on before the state tournament. Okay. Because you can look at it too and say, well, what happened with the Frank Brimsek Award? Well, okay, Ben Dardis was the Frank Brimsek Award, very well deserving from Matamidi. A fantastic season, won a state championship as a sophomore for Matamidi. He gets Frank Brimsek Award. He didn't have he had a good tournament, but not the best tournament. There were other goalies in the tournament that played better, and Austin Braun, who was the other one from Andover, had a phenomenal tournament. So if anybody was saying, well, if I'm picking it on the tournament, I'm picking Austin Braun's won the state championship, was phenomenal. Ben Dardis had a better body of work up to the tournament and a pretty decent tournament, but not a great tournament. It was voted on before the tournament. So that's why those things take place.
Okay. And just a quick tribute to, or not tribute, but just some recognition to, because Max Strand has got 2 or 3 brothers, and it's those of you that know, maybe comment, so they've done a lot of hockey you're kind of in the middle of nowhere in Roseville there, during the season. Yeah, that's fine. But then with all this all-star stuff, going to Bemidji or going to Grand Forks and all that commitment. So just a shout out to his parents and all the commitment. I played with one of his older brothers up there in the men's league tournament in like 2017. And he was playing D3 in Wisconsin, St. Norbert, Stevens Point, something like that. But like I said, I didn't realize that there were so many. So I kind of followed that name, since that time. But just a testament and congratulations, to his parents too. That's great. All right. So we went over Frank Brimsek. We went over Mr. Hockey, Reed Larson Award.
Yeah, the Reed Larson Award, which, by the way, is not named after me.
I'm assuming you presented that one.
If you want to say it's named after me, you go right ahead, because the only claim to fame that I have to that award is I was named after the guy who this award is named after. So yeah, this is Reed Larson Award, who is a Minnesota hockey icon. He graduated from Minneapolis Roosevelt. Now, don't ask me what year it was. Somebody can comment on this. Off the top of my head, I don't know. He's in his 60s now, so he's older. But he played for Minneapolis Roosevelt. He played for the University of Minnesota. He played for the Minnesota North Stars, played for the Red Wings, and played for the Boston Bruins, and would quote, had one of the hardest slap shots for a defenseman in the NHL back in his time, when they used wooden sticks. Okay. Yeah. He had just an absolute rocket. But yeah, that's my only claim to fame to him, is I was named after him, because when my mom was pregnant with the last name Larson at the time, I remember my mom saying, well, your grandpa really bugged me to name you Reed Larson. And so, well, Grandpa said he's going to be a hockey player, so he needs to have the name Reed. So he's named after the Gopher. So, and that's, of course, at the time, he was a pretty big deal. Anyway, Reed Larson Award ends up getting put on to Leo Gruba, who wins the award, defenseman from Hill Murray, who is very well deserving. He's a phenomenal defenseman, also had just a fantastic tournament. I believe it was Gruba that scored that one-time goal on the power play for Hill Murray in the tournament. He was sliding to the left on the top of the umbrella, and that it came right off of his stick. It was almost like I'm moving this direction.
Oh yeah.
Keep the puck, and it went that direction. I'm going this way. Puck went that way. One timer from the top of the umbrella, and it was an absolute laser. This is a guy that has had NHL scouts at every single game he played this year. So there's no question about it. He's well deserving of the Reed Larson Award. So fantastic. And that award goes to the top defenseman in the state.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Anything else on the awards?
Nope.
All right. Iron Range Apparel, again, up at the tournament. I keep bringing this up, but I was wearing the ODR swag, and some of those guys, said, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? Unfortunately, the website is not up and running. They said it was just so hard to keep up with pulling stuff from the storefront to ship out, and then you're doing returns. So if you want your ODR swag, you need to go to Iron Range Apparel, Thunderbird Mall in Virginia. Not only do they have the exclusive carry of the ODR line, but they have all kinds of gifts and knickknacks. I've called it the Gift Buyer's Paradise, Minnesota themed, whether it's playing cards or, tumblers like this, Blue Line Brews one, or shot glasses, coffee cups, everything Minnesota themed, caps, hats, all that good stuff. So if you're looking for a gift for that special someone, Easter is getting closer. If you be getting together with some family, you owe them that belated Christmas gift, or you owe that belated birthday gift, stop off at the Iron Great Mall in Virginia, Iron Range Apparel, and tell them that the Tea with Ms McGill show sent you. Last night, you got to attend what was it called? The Essentia Health High School
All-Star game, Northern Minnesota All-Star game. But before we get into that real quick, I will have you just a reminder here on our Goat Sports Facebook page, and then some. If you haven't already, Puka, make sure that you share the newest edition of the All Hockey Hair Team for the state hockey tournament as well. I decided today that I was not going to wear a hat for my podcast, because since I was not in the state tournament and we lost for Grand Rapids, I did not get to sport my flow at the state tournament to try and make the All Hockey Hair Team. So now Flo Tella is out here for our final edition for Tea with Ms McGill. So again, maybe Puka can remember to share the newest edition of the Hockey Hair Team, and of course, the top number 1 on the Hockey Hair Team. Little spoiler for you. Gavin Bloomdahl, I believe it was, from Hermantown. Was on that movie.
Yeah, there were a lot of locks, a lot of stashes this year.
Yeah, fun to
A
watch.
lot of lines that said, what does he call it? Dual exhaust? You know,
Dual exhaust, just a whoosh. Yep. Interesting. But yeah, so last night I made the trip down to Duluth to the Heritage Center to watch the Duluth area and Iron Range area All-Stars game. And it used to be the Duluth area teams versus the Range area teams, and they'd play in battle for the cup. Must have been probably about 6-7 years ago. They decided that format, one versus the other, wasn't working because one was taking over the wins from the other. They weren't close games anymore. So they decided to take the kids from those areas and draft 2 teams. So that's what they do. And they make sure that the coaches that are coaching it are high school coaches. They're out of season after the state hockey tournament. You're not allowed to coach your own players anymore. So what they do is, if any of your players that are returning for the next year, like they make it as a junior, it's the best juniors and seniors from the area. If they make it as a junior, then your players that are coming back playing for you the next year have to play for the other team.
Sure.
So Ben Johnson's staff from Rock Ridge was coaching the blue team last night, and Jason Wise's staff from Duluth Marshall was coaching the white team last night. And they both had players on the opposite team. So if they were juniors, they played on the other team. Kind of cool, but there were a number of kids that made that roster that did not elect to play because they had left after the season to go off to finish the seasons at the junior level. Easton Young being one of them. He headed off to Muskegon to play for the Muskegon Musketeers. Joey Del Greco is headed off to play for Waterloo. He did not play. Ren Merkwe is headed off to play for the Minnesota Wilderness. They are currently up in Alaska right now, doing a loop through Fairbanks and Anchorage and Kenai. And there's got to be one more in there. Oh, yeah, Hayden DeMars is out in Minot. So those are the Rapids guys. I'm sure there were other ones that were nominated. Believe Jacob Walsh has headed off to go in and fill a role as a third goalie at a USHL team for the end of the season. So a Cloquet goalie. So pretty cool to see some of these guys play, but fun game last night. It was the white team taking over and winning 8-3 over the blue team. MVP of the All-Star game last night, surprise, surprise, was Zam Plant. It was funny because not only did he play forward, but at the end of the game, since the white team was winning and beating up on the blue team a little bit, Zam Plant got moved back to defense, and they moved Bo Janzik, who's normally a defenseman for Hermantown, and moved him up to forward a little bit. They just had a little bit of fun with it. So it was a pretty standard All-Star game. If you've ever watched the NHL All-Star game before, nobody hits anybody in those games. It's all passing, it's all shooting, and it's very little defensive play. The score was 8-3. Goalies got their work cut out for them. But the cool thing is before the All-Star game, they actually have an opportunity of a skills competition. So they have hardest shot, they have shot accuracy, have the breakaway competition, stuff like that. And the one claim to fame for the area was that Justin Kerr from Grand Rapids ended up taking second place in the hardest shot competition with 91 miles an hour. So that's a bomb.
That's a bomb. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that you're saying about the All-Star stuff, but I remember when I started following junior hockey in the late 80s a little bit, some of those games, they were not like that. Now, this is, for you young people, this is, of course, pre-internet. I mean, even a video recorder, if you had some video on you, it was still pretty bad. I mean, it was, you got far away from the camera. It was hard to tell who you were. And some of those, like the USHL and stuff, some of those All-Star games were barn burners because that was their chance. They knew, and this is what, obviously at that time, scouts had to travel. So scouts would travel to this All-Star game, and it was a person's chance, and those games were really intense. So if you're a junior and if you're going to play next year, I don't know how many scouts are there, Reed, you can maybe tell us, but this might be your chance. So if you have that opportunity, you might not want to rest on your laurels. You might want to say, hey, this is my shot. I'm going to get everything I got and play my game.
Yeah, no, I think there's a decent amount of junior level scouts. I saw one NHL scout there last night, and I would assume he was there to watch two guys in the entire game as far as scouting for the NHL. He was there to watch Ty Hansen and Zam Plant. He probably not interested in watching anybody else, but that's Tom McFarland, who's is a scout in the NHL as well. So he's watching those guys. They're underage guys. It's not their draft year, I don't believe. Maybe Zam's on the draft list this year.
Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say.
He might be, but at any rate, he was the only NHL scout that was there. But I'm sure maybe one or two could have been hiding in nooks and crannies, but that was the only one I saw. But there was one other award for the area. I guess I can't forget to mention, but they have the goaltending award that's given in the skills competition for the breakaways, and it came down to two Iron Range goalies to win that baby. It was Nathan Jurgensen versus Miles Gunderson, and Jurgensen from Greenway ended up getting the win for the breakaway competition. So it's kind of cool.
Good for him. All right. Anything else on the All-Star game?
Nope.
All right. Well, that will pretty much. Oh, wait. Before I wrap, good luck to all the youth players. It's state tournament weekend. So good luck to everybody in the youth hockey across Minnesota. I know we got some teams up in northern Minnesota making it. So good luck to all of you. We've mentioned this last couple. Oh, go ahead.
Northern Lakes Bantam A's.
Oh, okay.
In the state tournament. So we want to make sure that we mention those and give kudos to my brother's youth association there. The Northern Lakes Bantam A team is off to the state tournament this weekend. So good luck to the Northern Lakes Lightning Bantam A team. And Chris Belter, former Grand Rapids alumni, is the coach of that team as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I looked at the Bantam A. I mean, Hibbing's Bantam A's are out in East Grand Forks. They play East Grand Forks the first game. Hibbing Pee Wee A's got Warroad the first game. I think I looked at the double A. I think Cloquet for
Cloquet's in the A, single A tournament.
Okay, they're A. I think it's got Cloquet names. I think I saw Alex's name in there. Again, of course, Hermantown in the double A for I think Pee Wee's and Bantam. So I think they were in that for both of them. But anyways, the Northern team. So best wishes. Enjoy it while you got it. And congratulations to all the teams. It's been a long year. We're getting, close to April here. So best wishes. So this will end our weekly show. Now we will be back in through the spring and summer. We changed to our interview format. So we'll be interviewing guests. We'll probably take most of April off, get into some interviews, May, June, July, August, September, October. And then the season, we'll do our preseason show in November when it gets going. So just want to make sure, don't be texting Reed. Don't be emailing me. Don't be, asking where the show is. We change once the season's over here. We get to a monthly format, but we've got some ideas on some pretty cool interviews to bring you through the summer. If you want to see the interviews we did last year, just go back through the feeds, whether it's podcast, Facebook, YouTube. We had, I think Antonovich was probably the one of the better ones, but Bliss Littler was a good one. If it's been around junior A hockey for.
Drew LeBlanc was on there.
Who?
Drew LeBlanc was on there.
Yep. Another guy who went to Minnesota Hockey Caps. He talks a little bit about that. And said if you're interested in junior hockey, check out the Bliss Littler one. Of course, Anton, legend up here, NHL, WHL, Minnesota Gopher, two-time state tournament winner with Greenway High School. That was a good one. So you can go through. We had Petey there with the Iron Range Goalie Academy for you goalies. You want to check that one out. So we'll have some interviews coming up here. So expect a show about once a month. All right. Like I said, please comment on anything, share, contact us at Goatsportsmediallc at gmail.com if you want something a little bit more private. We still got the merch, sold some merch up in White Lakes this weekend. So like I said, just message me, message Goat Sports. We can figure out a way to get it to you. Anything else, Reed?
Nope. Moving on to the off season and looking forward to some nice weather now.
Yeah, well, it's well deserved. Remember, Reed was at the state football tournament, so we went from August right on through the hockey season. He, threw his football bag down on Saturday, picked up his hockey skates on Monday. He's been at it for 6 months or so. So some well-deserved time off for you. Once again, thanks to all of our sponsors. Blue Line Brews, check it out right here. That's what the K-Cups are looking like. The Ring Sports Bar and Grill over in Evelyn, Iron Range Apparel at the Thunderbird Mall in Virginia, Minnesota Hockey Camps Iron Range Goalie Academy. Once again, we are on Rumble and we're also on Instagram. On Rumble, it's Goat Sports. On Instagram, it's the Tea with Ms McGill Show. For Ray Larson, I am Puka. Get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to the Tea with Ms McGill Show.